Good morning. How's everybody doing today?
Good, thank you.
I've got a little sinus something going on up here.
Yeah, you don't sound normal.
So
You don't sound like yourself.
It'll be interesting to see how I sound on the podcast because it does deepen my voice a little bit. So maybe I actually sound a little more manly.
Very sexy.
On today's podcast. Today's family meeting. So the hard part is like trying not to sniffle and all that on the episode because nobody wants to listen to that for 40 minutes.
No, they do not.
So hopefully you're doing well. It's Easter week, so it's like Super Bowl for us church leaders, making sure last minute things are all ready to go. Big day, so of course that's when I'm not feeling the greatest. But
yeah,
I was literally just messaging another pastor friend of mine up in Michigan, James Bell, and his car broke down and he's stuck at Planet Fitness and he's like, welcome to Easter week. It's here.
It is. I mean, usually Easter week is tough. It's a tough week for some reason. The enemy is at work, I guess.
Yeah, so, but we're getting ready for Easter on the beach. It's going to be a great time. There's still time for you, wherever you are, to buy airline tickets to come down and celebrate Easter at the beach.
It's totally worth it. You should do it. It's awesome.
Looking forward to that. We are on part 2 today, talking about addiction. So last week we were talking about, hey, trying to figure out if my spouse has an addiction, or what do I do if I know my spouse has an addiction? And just having that conversation. Today we're going to talk and more specifically think about you and each of us kind of searching our own life. As we talked about last week, I mean, all of us are addicted to something. So really the question is, are we addicted to something that is like negatively affecting our lives and the lives of the people that we are in contact with? So we'll dive into that today. But I'd love to hear about what your family's doing for Easter. What are your favorite Easter traditions? Do you do candy hunts, egg hunts? I know when we were growing up, we did candy hunts. So my parents hid candy all around the house. So what did your family do? Did you guys do anything like that?
My parents hid nickels.
Oh, nickels. Okay. Mm-hmm. What year was that?
That was back when a nickel was like $100.
Yeah. That's so funny.
We were thrilled to get our little nickels.
That's really funny because I remember even when I was a kid, the nickel was not that much money.
We were so poor that nickels were amazing to get, okay?
Like a 20-ounce thing of soda, like Mountain Dew, was like just under $1.
98 cents.
So with deposit and tax, it was just over $1. So you'd need 25 nickels at least just to get a soda.
You're quite the mathematician.
Yeah.
Handsome and smart?
Yeah. Total package. Total package. And now I got the deep voice. So
I am one lucky lady.
Watch out, ladies. Yeah, so we'd love to hear about what your traditions were. Whenever I think of Easter, I often think of my grandma, Juanita, because we would go to her house for Easter and have big Easter hunt and play football up at the park with all our relatives and all that. So
yeah,
it was a great time.
Great childhood.
That was the Saturday before Easter. We'd have our Easter get together. Today, let's see. You ready to go? Is that what you're pointing?
Yeah, I feel like we need to probably get onto the actual recording. We love YouTube, but like
she's always trying to get to business.
I have 3 separate paint jobs today, and I've tried to time it where like I can get to each one in the right amount of time, but we definitely can't go long today. So
she's always trying to move on, and I'm just like, I want to hang out with you guys for a little bit. I want to hear about your lives.
But TikTok.
Okay.
I feel like Judge Judy.
Yeah, seriously. All right, here we go.
All right.
Let's do that one time.
Get it all the way out. Like, do a good
Gather around, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas, and this is my wife. Move it along, Judge Judy. You and her are about the same age, right? How old is the judge?
Like 102.
Honorable Judy.
And I'm only 101. Hello and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 238 of the Family Meeting Podcast. We are glad that you're with us today, and today is going to be a little bit heavier of a topic. Once we get into it, we're going to try to give you a little bit of lighthearted, relaxed fun at the beginning because it's going to be heavy later.
Before we ruin all of your day.
Yeah, we're going to ruin your day. You're like, you ruin my day every Wednesday. On today's episode, though, we're going to talk about addiction part 2 because last week we had part 1. We're going to talk about the way it affects marriage. So last week we talked about how to know if your spouse is an addict and how to help them. Today, we're going to look at it from the other side. What if through all of this information that was shared through last week, you realize that it's you with the addiction. You're the one who has a problem. What do you do then? How do you talk to your spouse about your addiction? Or is it okay to keep it to yourself? Is it okay to fight this thing in secret? We're going to talk about all of that today. But first.
So we are just over a month away from our marriage retreat in Byram, Mississippi.
I am so excited because I love our Mississippi friends. They are so fun and full of life. I just really enjoy being around them.
Yeah, going to be with the Howells. Those of you who are listening, if you'd be in prayer for their family, they've been going through some hard times with some relatives. Their doggy that was like 16 years old, they had to put their doggy down. So
it makes me so sad.
They're going through a lot of sorrow right now. You know,
trials.
Leading into Easter and then the retreat coming up. So they've got a lot going on. So be in prayer for them. We are looking forward to being with them and all of the people over there. Great location. Had such a good time last time. And let's see, we're going to be talking with them about leveling up your marriage.
We are. Yeah.
So looking forward to that. Those conversations we're going to be able to have. Be with them at church on Sunday also. So it's going to be a really good time. We're looking forward to it. We were having this conversation in our family meeting community group this past week and wanted to kind of throw this out into the podcast community, get your thoughts, your experiences on this. So Jessica Ruff commented this right here. So I'm guessing something happened in the middle of the night while she was sleeping that brought up this thought, okay? She wrote, God bless my husband for all the times I've awakened angry at him because of something he did in my dreams the previous night, and then that kind of laughy face. But what I think is funny is, she says for all the times. Like this is a reoccurring thing that's happening. So
yeah.
I don't know what her husband is doing during the day, but at night, this guy is mischievous. He is causing a lot of problems
in her dreams.
So he's waking up and, in trouble all the time. She's angry, which, this happens in our house. This is real. Well, not as much anymore. It happened a lot when you were pregnant.
The pregnancy hormone. The pregnancy dreams are real. Ladies, you're with me, right? You know you guys have had some really doozies of dreams when you're pregnant. But it's also been on like a bunch of sitcoms.
Yeah.
Like where this same scenario is played out in a sitcom that I've seen. So, but go ahead.
So anyways, I was going to say, if this has happened to you, whether you're the one having the dreams or it's your spouse having the dreams, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah.
If you put it in the comments, you can email us at info@familymeeting.org. I'd love to hear those stories, be able to share them with the rest of our listeners. But I commented on here right away because I'm like, my wife does this to me all the time.
Yeah, more so when I was pregnant.
And so she answers like, he heard it all the way to work this morning. So I don't know what happened. Yvette said, my husband got an elbow to the side for doing the worst thing ever in my dream and was mad at him all day.
Dreams are so real that it's hard to get over the thing that they did in your dream that made you mad. Like you have to actually work through like forgiveness, even though it's not even real. It's very weird.
And Joshua said, he tagged his wife Stacy and said, guilty as charged. Christy Culver said, Leon has done this especially from naps, and he has walked out of the bedroom glaring at me.
naps. He has nap dreams.
So it seems like she's doing something in his dreams.
Yeah.
And Cheryl Madison, Matteson says, "Yep, it happens.
Yeah.
It happens." I had never experienced this personally, as far as like in my dreams.
You've never had a dream about me doing something bad to you.
Yes. Until recently. It was maybe a month ago. It wasn't very long ago. Mm-hmm. And I had a dream that you cheated on me. And I remember just like waking up feeling so brokenhearted. Like I wasn't mad because I'm like, well, you know.
Well, what?
It's believable, right?
It's believable that I would cheat on you?
No, that you could find somebody better. That's believable. But I remember waking up just like feeling so brokenhearted, and it took me a while, like, to get over it.
I felt so bad for you. You were like sad.
I really was. I was sad for like half a day.
It really got you.
Yeah. So.
But it's good to know you wouldn't be mad.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Just kidding. That's a bad joke on,
That's a terrible
on a
joke.
marriage and family podcast.
But I now I understand what you were going through what Jessica's going through when you wake up and you're like, oh, what did you do last night?
Okay, because dreams create feelings. Fake dreams, they're not reality, but they create real feelings.
Yeah.
Like, so I had dreams like this from the beginning of our marriage. We were only married, a year and a half when I was pregnant with our first child. So
yeah, my 5-year plan went right out the window.
Yeah, it did. It became your 1.5-year plan. So I'm pregnant, and of course the dreams start, and they're so vivid and they're so real, and they are like all of your worst fears. Plus, when you're pregnant, you feel huge and unattractive, undesirable. So then all of your like fears of, is my husband cheating on me, go skyrocketing through the roof, at least for me anyway.
Yeah.
And so I had this dream, and it was so vivid. We were at the church that we were serving in at the time, and I was down the hall, and I could hear you on the phone, which, by the way, people, the phone in the dream was attached to the wall with the
That's how long ago it was.
Cord. Yeah, and I could like see you. I peeked around the corner. I could see you. You're on the phone, and you're like, "Okay, meet me in the back." Blah blah blah, and you're like setting up your secret date with some woman.
Oh my gosh!
And I was so furious because I wasn't brokenhearted. I was angry, like furious. And so, of course, then I wake up from the dream, and I'm like, "I know what you did."
I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
He's just been sleeping.
Yeah.
And I thought it was real for a little while. And then as I started telling him, I started realizing like certain things about the dream that were like, okay.
Don't make sense.
That didn't make sense. How was I there? What, and all this stuff. And so I had to like work through forgiveness.
For something I never did.
For something he never did. It was really weird. But I had a lot of those dreams. Typically where he cheated on me, but other times it was just him being mean to me in my dreams.
Yeah.
So, but you got to get over these things. It's real life though. It's what's happening in our marriages.
Real life Lysandra loves a bad boy. Dream Lysandra does not like a bad boy.
That's true.
So.
That's true. All right. So we better get serious.
Yeah, let's change direction.
We're shifting gears.
Got to get my serious voice on.
Yeah. Because what we're talking about is really quite heavy, especially if it is applicable to your marriage, your relationship right now, or even someone else that you know, someone close to you. It's really tough. We have both had addicts in our family.
Yeah.
We shared last week very transparently the addictions that we face. I think you talked about your phone being an addiction. I talked about food. What was there anything else that
Coffee.
I missed? Coffee, yeah, it's coffee being my addiction.
So we put the challenge out there last week about you not having coffee until we record this episode.
Yeah.
How did that go?
I made it like 3 hours, and it was unbelievable. I really felt like I turned a corner.
How many coffees did you have this week?
This week?
Yeah, did you have more than 7?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely had a coffee every morning for sure. And then some days I had a second coffee. So, but I don't know.
How many days did you have 3?
I don't know. Maybe a couple. Maybe a couple of days I had 3. I don't know though. I don't know that I definitely had 3 ever.
Okay.
I don't keep track, but I know that I don't have 3 a day, like at all. You're just looking at me with these judgy eyes. This is not what we're trying to encourage people to do.
Well, here's the thing. I took the challenge. I didn't have coffee at all this week. So
yeah, because you don't like it.
But I didn't use my phone either all week long.
Yeah, nobody believes you.
Next week's episode is online.
Right. Exhibit A.
Yeah.
So bottom line is, though, we all have addictions that we're fighting. Some are a little more detrimental than others. But all of our addictions affect our spouses.
And last week we kind of looked at the spouses. This week we want to look at ourselves.
Yeah.
So obviously Lysandra and I are joking around here a little bit, but we are encouraging you not to ever use these episodes as weapons in your relationship. But especially as you look at this, because even with, we have a questionnaire from Narcotics Anonymous we're going to get to in just a second here that are going to ask a bunch of questions. And you can go on there and look at the questionnaire yourself. We're not going to really delve into it, but it'll kind of give you an idea of how to evaluate yourself to see if I am addicted.
Right.
So even though this is coming from Narcotics Anonymous, it's dealing with drugs. There, you can change the questions just a little bit to whatever it is you think that you're struggling with. You're like, okay, is this just something I enjoy? Is it moved over into an addiction? Right.
And we talked last week. We do really recommend that you go listen to last week's episode, please. But we did talk about the difference between substance addictions and behavioral addictions. So behavioral addictions would be like shopping. Shopping is an addiction. Pornography. Behavioral addictions, babe. What am I missing? I don't know. But then there's also, the substances like drugs, alcohol, marijuana, prescription medications, and so on.
Yeah.
So you understand that there are 2 kinds of addictions, and we want to talk about all of those today. But we're going to start here. We're going to start at this Narcotics Anonymous questionnaire. And we pulled this right off the website, copied and pasted it to our notes. So you can go on and you can see this for yourself. But if you go online, you're going to go to na.org and you go through, they have a question right on the homepage. It says, am I an addict? Click on that and it'll take you to this questionnaire. And if you are not sure if you're an addict, you can listen to last week's episode. That talks a lot about it. And then also, answer these questions here.
So with the questionnaire, we're just going to spitfire these out here, not really comment on them, but just to give you an idea, literally tell you what the questionnaire is.
Right, exactly. Okay.
So let's jump into the questions here.
All right, we're going to go quick. Do you ever use alone?
Have you ever substituted one drug for another, thinking that one particular drug was the problem?
Have you ever manipulated or lied to a doctor to obtain prescription drugs?
Have you ever stolen drugs or stolen to obtain drugs?
Do you regularly use a drug when you wake up or when you go to bed?
Have you ever taken one drug to overcome the effects of another?
Do you avoid people or places that do not approve of you using drugs?
Have you ever used a drug without knowing what it was or what it would do to you?
Has your job or school performance ever suffered from the effects of your drug use?
Have you ever been arrested as a result of using drugs?
Have you ever lied about what or how much you use?
Do you put the purchase of drugs ahead of your financial responsibilities?
Have you ever tried to stop or control your using?
Have you ever been in a jail, hospital, or drug rehabilitation center because of your using?
Does using interfere with your sleeping or eating?
Does the thought of running out of drugs terrify you?
Do you feel it is impossible for you to live without drugs?
Do you ever question your own sanity?
Is your drug use making life at home unhappy?
Have you ever thought you couldn't fit in or have a good time without drugs?
Have you ever felt defensive, guilty, or ashamed about your using?
Do you think a lot about drugs?
Have you ever had an irrational or indefinable fears?
Has using affected your sexual relationships?
Have you ever taken drugs you didn't prefer?
Have you ever used drugs because of emotional pain or stress?
Have you ever overdosed on drugs?
Do you continue to use despite negative consequences?
Do you think you might have a drug problem?
So as we kind of go through here, and obviously this is focused in on drugs as we mentioned, but you could very easily swap out some of these things to talking about alcohol or whatever, talking about pornography. It's like, is it affecting your relationships? Are you avoiding places that don't approve of X, Y, or Z? How's it affecting your relationships and all of that kind of thing? So really taking some time to think through, and if any of those things, jump up and it's like, you know what? Yeah, that's definitely true of that certain thing, then you have an issue.
Right.
You are addicted to whatever that is. Serious addiction.
Absolutely. And sometimes we say things like, okay, I'm different. Okay, I know I take drugs, or I know I dabble in alcohol, or I know I have an occasional cigarette or smoke. I can't think of what marijuana cigarettes are. I want to call them marijuana cigarettes, and that is not right.
I don't think marijuana is an addiction problem for you.
No, that one is not my coffee. But what we can say is, like, I take these drugs, or I dabble a little, but I'm not an addict. Or I online shop, but I'm not addicted to it. Okay. I have family problems because of everything else, or whatever. Or I'm just having a tough time right now. I'm just having a hard time getting things together. That's all it is. It's not an addiction. Or this one, I'll be able to stop when I find the right person or get the right job, or when this stress is over, then I'll be able to stop. And those are the kinds of things that you can trick yourself. You can lie to yourself. And the Bible even talks about the fact that we as human beings deceive ourselves. We will lie to ourselves, whatever we need to tell ourselves to be able to stay in whatever behavior we are enjoying in that moment. But if you are an addict, you must first admit that you have a problem with the addiction before any progress toward recovery can be made. That's where it starts. It starts with, I am an addict, saying those words.
Yeah, and I think about that question is like, I have to use it first thing in the morning or right before I go to bed. And it's like, how many of us, that's our phone?
Absolutely.
Like the first thing we got to grab in the morning is our phone, and it's the last thing we look at before we go to bed at night. And so it's not just about drugs, but man, we have addictions to so many different things, and even good, helpful things like your phone. You think of, we talked last week about all the helpful things we can do on our phones, and that Lysandra and I personally use it for, but it can get to a point where it's detrimental to the relationships in your life.
And I think that there is a big challenge in being addicted to something that you can't cut completely out of your life. So you can completely cut pornography out of your life, and you should. You can't completely, if you're married, you should not completely cut sex out of your life, though.
Yeah.
If you are a glutton and you're addicted to food, you cannot completely cut food out of your life forever. You have to eat. You just have to make good choices when you eat. Most of us cannot live without our phones. Like, I know that there's that like joke, you could live without your phone. Well, I mean, you really need it for a lot of practical, real things, right? So,
I mean, people lived a long time without smartphones. It's possible.
But in our day and age, it is really impractical.
I mean, you can still do it. And there are people that do it and choose to for a variety of reasons.
Yes, but I would be incredibly annoyed with you if you didn't have a phone.
Yeah.
I would be like, where are you? How can I communicate with you? All of this stuff, right? So I think that these addictions where you can't completely go cold turkey, you can't completely cut them out of your life, add kind of a new challenge. I'm not saying it's harder than, say, taking drugs completely out of your life, or taking pornography completely out of your life, or taking alcohol completely out of your life. But there are things that we can completely do without, and then there are things that we have to manage, which is a whole different kind of a challenge.
Yeah. So as we have this conversation, there are a few things we want to talk about, a few questions we want to ask, and you realize most, and a lot of us that are struggling with certain things, like we already know this is an issue in my life. So here's a question to think about. Do I have to tell my spouse, and can I fight it? Can I just fight it in secret? Like, can I just figure this thing out on my own and not tell them about it because I don't want to hurt them, or I'm afraid, they might leave me, or whatever it is.
Yeah. And I think we can, here again, lie to ourselves, and we can trick ourselves into believing that, like, the reason I'm not telling my spouse about my addiction is to protect them. It's because I love them. But let me ask you this question. Do you feel loved when people hide things from you? Do you feel loved when people lie to you? And the answer is no. Of course you don't. So don't trick yourself into believing that you are keeping your addiction from your spouse because you love them. It's not true.
Well, and I was just listening to Carrie Newhoff podcast yesterday while I was painting. We were at a paint job yesterday, and he was interviewing Gabe and Rebecca Lyons, and they just wrote a book on marriage. They've been married for 28 years, and they were talking about the being completely open and honest. And he was asking the question, like, are there things like you don't tell your spouse? Can you think of anything that you shouldn't tell your spouse? And both of their answers was right away, like, no, should be completely open and transparent. And part of the conversation they were having is like, we're having sex, and like somebody else besides your spouse flashes into your mind. So even like that detail of like vulnerability and openness, because, if you're going to truly be as close as possible to your spouse, you can't have secrets. You can't withhold things from each other.
Right. And the truth is, you can try to fight your addiction alone. You can try it. And some people do for a while. But the bigger truth is that an addiction thrives in secrecy.
Yeah.
That's where it grows. That's where it does well, is in the secret, hiding. But healing happens a lot faster and more deeply with support. Support from your spouse, yes, but also from other friends and family that you can trust.
Well, and it's not just about the support either. It's, the accountability as well. The biggest thing that's going to help somebody get over addiction, other than having their life completely changed through Jesus. As Christians,
Amen.
We believe that is the number one source of change in anybody's life. But Christians struggle with addictions and things like that as well. Like, we know people that, hey, they trusted in Jesus, and boom, their life changed immediately. They never touched a cigarette again. They never drank again. They never struggled with certain addictions again. But for a lot of us, that's not the case. And so being open and transparent allows us to have that accountability to work through that situation.
Right.
And I think sometimes we deceive ourselves into thinking that it's best for the relationship if I don't tell my spouse, when in reality, it's the exact opposite thing. Like, the best thing for your relationship is to be open and transparent with your spouse, and let them either help you work through it. For some of the stuff, it's not really going to be your spouse's responsibility to help you work through it. Counselor and going to therapy and all that stuff. But having that accountability is vitally important into overcoming addiction.
Right, because research shows that individuals with strong family involvement are up to 50% more likely to complete addiction treatment successfully. So they have a much better success rate of becoming clean than if you are trying to fight it alone and in secret. And here's the deal. If you don't tell your spouse, you carry the weight alone. And it's exhausting and it's isolating.
Yeah.
Anytime you are hiding something, you are lying about things, keeping things in secret, whatever it is isolating you. And that's not healthy. It's not going to help your relationship to thrive at all. And if relapse happen, which is common, right? Okay, most of us don't say like, okay, I have a pornography addiction. I'm never going to look at pornography again, and never look at pornography again. Right. Most people have a relapse. Most people are going to work to get out of it, pull back in, get out, and it's a process, an exhausting process, but a process nonetheless. But if relapse does happen, then you might spiral harder out of shame or secrecy. And it's going to create this wall. If you're trying to get out of your addiction by yourself without your spouse knowing about it, there is a wall built in your relationship. You have built a cement, giant, hard wall that cannot be penetrated. It's isolating. And emotionally, you're cutting yourself off from your spouse because you're constantly lying. And sometimes it creates a wall practically, like in reality, where you're literally trying to not be around them because you're hiding this addiction.
Yeah.
And also you've got to realize that when your spouse finds out, and I say when, because most of the time it's going to come out. It's very rare that it won't. In fact, the Bible says, be sure your sin will find you out. So people are going to find out. Whether or not your spouse does, maybe not, but most likely eventually it's going to come out.
I mean, most of the time that's how these things come out. It's because they're found out.
They get caught.
Not because you confessed. It's like you got caught, and then we often backtrack from there. So the best thing for you is just to come open, come clean. Like if your spouse doesn't know yet, this is the week to have that conversation with them, and to fill them in on the struggle that you are facing.
Yeah, because if it comes out before you confess, then your spouse is going to be betrayed. They're going to feel more betrayed that you couldn't trust them with this. They are going to feel like they're going to feel worse if they caught you versus you came forward.
Right. And it's no matter what, it's going to be a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
But if you're caught, that expounds the pain, the hurt, the betrayal, and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It brings new and different hurts that you wouldn't have had to do.
And here's the thing. If you tell your spouse, you give yourself the gift of support, not just accountability. Mm-hmm. Your spouse might want to help you walk through it, not leave you in it.
Hopefully that's what your spouse would be.
Right. I mean, and depending on what you're dealing with, coming clean, it could mean the end of your marriage, right? But here's the thing. If you don't come clean, your marriage is already over.
Yeah.
Like you're just roommates at that point, because you're not being open with them. You're not being transparent. Mm-hmm. You're not having that deep connection with them because you're hiding this thing. So the thing that you are fearing is going to happen has already happened if you're not willing to come clean about it. Mm-hmm. And if you tell your spouse, it opens the door for honest, deeper connection, even if it's hard at first.
And it will be.
I mean, and here's the thing, because you don't have to lie, you don't have to hide, you don't have to pretend. So you can get the help that you need for walking through.
And the second you tell your spouse, you will feel a weight lifted. Like you will, even if they blow up, even if they're furious, even if it like wrecks things, there will be a weight lifted in the fact that you are no longer lying, pretending, hiding, working so hard to keep track of all of the different lies that you've told, or to hide the computer, or whatever you're trying to do. Like that weight just is lifted immediately the second you speak the words. So tell your spouse. So that's really what we want to come down to at the end of it is tell your spouse.
Have the hard conversation.
Yeah. So when we say, can I fight it alone? Do I have to tell my spouse? The answer, in our opinion, is you have to tell your spouse. Tell your spouse. It's the right thing to do. You've got to be honest with them. Okay, so if that's what we believe, then how? And you're saying, all right, fine, I've decided I'm going to tell my spouse that I have this addiction that they don't know about, or maybe that they suspect about. I'm going to come clean. How do I do it?
Yeah.
Because it's scary and it's hard. So telling your spouse that you think that you're struggling with this addiction, it's going to take honesty. It's going to take vulnerability. It will be hard, but it's going to be that turning point that you need to start to heal. You cannot heal until you're honest about this.
Yeah.
Both you and your spouse and your whole relationship is going to begin healing at that very point that you come clean and you tell them about your addiction. So here's the way to approach it. The first thing that you need to understand is you've got to pick the right moment. And actually, I think it was really good that Thomas said, this is the week you need to tell your spouse. And I want to say like, no, today is the day. But the truth is today may not be the day.
Yeah.
You might have family staying in your house right now, like extended family, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's Easter week. So
yeah, you might have a birthday. One of your children's birthday parties is today. So maybe this isn't the day to tell them about the addiction.
I will say if it's your child's birthday, today is not the day.
But this is the week.
Yeah.
Within the next 7 days, you can certainly find a time that is the right moment. What are some of the things that make it the right moment, Thomas? We talk about this with any kind of conflict or heavy discussion, picking the right moment.
One of the things we look to is, we look to Scripture. We are Christians, and I encourage people to think about Esther. Esther had a serious issue going on with the eradication of her people, and she was going to approach the king. Now, approaching the king at that time without being summoned by the king could mean her life. So she had to pick the right time. Mm-hmm. And for you, it's about picking the right time. So you want to find a calm, private space where you're both not distracted or rushed.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think too, like, you don't want to bombard your spouse right when they come home from work.
Right. Yeah.
You don't want to have the conversation in front of the kids. I think you want to give your spouse a little heads up somehow. So what we typically will do is it's always me. It's always me in this relationship. Okay, let's be honest.
Pretty much, yeah.
There's almost never a time that Thomas is like, I need to talk to you about something heavy or something you did or something you said. He never does that. He's very content, and I'm always like, we got to work on this. So what I typically will do is I will try to text him. It's one of the best ways to communicate with Thomas is through text. And I will try to say, honey, I need to talk to you about something important. Do you have time later today?
And at that point, I'll typically text, what is the subject we're going to be talking about?
Right, because if I just say we need to talk, then his mind could be all over the place about what it may be. So I might say like,
uh-oh, my dream came true.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell him that I cheated on him or something. But
and you may need to.
That may need to be the addiction that you're coming clean with. But I'll typically tell him some vague thing about what it is. Like, I'm having a personal problem, or I feel like we're disconnected, or, whatever. But in this case, I feel like for an addiction, that might be the best thing, is to be like, I'm having a personal problem that I need to talk to you about. That's enough information to know, okay, my spouse isn't mad at me. They just need to come and tell me something. And I know that when I go into this conversation, it's serious and it's important enough to like give me the heads up. So I'm not being lambasted, blindsided. I'm not shocked at it. I mean, your spouse may be very shocked by the addiction that you share with them. On the reverse, they may be like, yeah, I know, I was waiting for you to figure it out.
But you're setting up the conversation to be as successful as possible.
Right.
You just blindside people, and then they can't really take time to think about what it is you're actually saying and talking about.
Yeah.
It's like that grenade drop in the war zone, and you feel that concussion blast, and it's like you're just trying to get your bearings and gain your senses versus coming in knowing, okay, this is a personal issue my spouse is dealing with. It's a serious situation. I'm prepared for what's as best as possible for what I'm about to hear.
Right. Let them brace themselves a little bit. And then when you start off the conversation, you may want to start with something like this. We're going to give you a little like a little thing that you could copy this exactly if this is applicable to you, or something like this. I need to talk to you about something really hard for me to admit. I've been struggling, and I think I might have a problem with this addiction, whether it's a substance addiction or a behavioral addiction. I'm scared, I'm ashamed, and I don't fully understand it myself yet, but I didn't want to keep hiding it from you. So I'm admitting to you that this is my addiction.
Yeah. And I think along in that conversation, you're including the ways that it's been affecting the relationship with your spouse, with your family as a whole. If it's caused issues at work, Like you're coming through and really acknowledging basically how serious the addiction is and to what extent that it is affecting, your entire life.
Yeah. So if it's a shopping addiction, you're going to be like, okay, I'm so addicted at night. When you go to sleep, I wake up and I shop online, and I have a secret credit card that I've been buying all of this, and that's how I've been hiding it from you. And I can't stop. Like, I don't know how to stop. Or maybe it is the pornography. So the same kind of scenario, but with pornography, I have fake email accounts. I have hidden files on my computer, coming clean with exactly what it is and how deep it goes. Coming clean right at the beginning. We have seen many times when people get caught in an addiction, they think they're clever and they're just not. Like, people are smarter than this, but they come and they say, oh yeah, I just looked at pornography 3 times. Or they'll say, yeah, I did have an affair, but it was only emotional. Okay, I just kissed her. That's all I did. And it's like, you think that if you admit a little bit of what happened, that they won't keep digging.
Yeah.
And it never works. Like, it never works. It all comes out. So you might as well at the very beginning just be like, these are all the sites I'm on. This is where I've been. This is what I've done. Don't try to just give a little bit in hopes that that's enough to get them to not dig. You need to just be totally upfront all at the same time.
Yeah. And so I totally agree with that, and whatever the circumstance is, maybe it's alcohol for you and you really just have no control over your consumption of alcohol. So you're literally talking about the stores that you're going to buy it and what's going on. Like, I'm pouring it in my coffee every morning as I get ready to go to work. Like, that's how serious the addiction has gotten. But as Lysandra mentioned, like, coming fully clean, like, if you're going to have this conversation, you need to rip the whole Band-Aid off. And just come clean. It's far better for you to come completely clean than for you to tell a partial truth, which is a whole lie, but to tell that partial truth and then for more to be found out later on.
It feels like another betrayal.
At that point, you are almost all but dooming the relationship. So the best chance your relationship has to become everything that it can be, and for you to get through this addiction and have victory over it, is to come completely open, honest, and clean. So if you're not willing to do that, then just don't have the conversation. But it is time to have the conversation, and having the conversation, you do need to come completely clean. However painful, how much ever, it's going to hurt your spouse most likely with whatever it is. Just come completely clean. And once you've come completely clean, then you can have an opportunity to start building from there on the relationship. So you are going to pick that right moment. And then I also think it's important to own your feelings without blame.
Yeah.
So
because you're so mean to me, I had to drink alcohol. Because, the kids are so crazy and you don't help around the house, I have to go online shopping.
Yeah. Or, hey, this happened to me in my childhood, and that's why, I'm dealing with drugs right now. Or,
which it may be a factor, but we got to take the responsibility ourselves.
For your own choices. Because initially we did make choices to get to here.
Right.
Now, we may have gotten to a point where I no longer have choice. Like, literally my addiction is controlling me at this point. But you have to take ownership of the choices you made to get here.
And the reason that you cannot blame things from your past for your addiction is because every single person in this world has horrible things that have happened to them in their past. We all do. And so none of us can say, like, what happened to me is worse than what happened to you. We can't say that. It's not fair. So we've got to take the ownership of, this is how I chose to handle my past. This is how I chose to handle my stress, my anger, or whatever.
And it's not just that everybody has something happen to them, because they do. But also, if you don't own it, if you continue to make excuses, you're never going to get over the addiction.
Exactly.
Like, you're just going to go right back into that behavior, or you're going to trade it out with a different behavior.
Right.
So you're going to substitute one bad thing with another bad thing. So it is important, and part of the process of overcoming addiction is owning it, not blaming anyone or anything else for the choices that you've made. So you're going to, in the conversation, focus on how you're feeling, not excuses or outside factors. You may say something along the lines of, I've been feeling overwhelmed and ashamed, and it's been hard to face, but I want to be honest with you because I love you and I don't want to keep this secret anymore.
Right. And it's okay to be honest about your feelings. Like, it's okay to say, I went after, alcohol because I was dealing with my trauma from childhood. Like, it's okay to be honest about like the why or why you went to this, but it's not about saying like, it's okay for me to do this because of my trauma. And there's a difference in that. So explaining to your spouse that you do feel overwhelmed and you are ashamed of this, you are embarrassed. These are the things that led to this addiction, but not saying that it's okay for me to have this addiction because of those things.
Yeah.
And it's good to acknowledge the impact of your behavior on your family, because when you acknowledge the impact that your behavior and your choices has had on them and on your family, that's going to help them process. It's going to help them be on your side, because now they don't have to be defensive and be like, okay, you're addicted to pornography because I'm not fulfilling you sexually. So then I have to defend myself. Well, I tried to fulfill you, but you wouldn't, or whatever. So when you say like, I understand that this affects you. I understand that what I've done is hurting our marriage. I understand that what I've done has affected our children, or whatever it may be. And you can say something like, I know it's going to be hard to hear this, and I know it's probably already affected you in our relationship more than I even realize, and I'm sorry for the pain I have caused you. I'm sorry that this is hurting you right now in this moment, and I'm sorry for the ways that this has and will hurt you. Thinking of the shopping addiction. I'm sorry for the ways that this is going to mess up our finances, because I have this secret credit card now that we have to deal with. Like, I know that I've done this to you, and I'm sorry. And acknowledging that impact is going to help you a long ways.
And I think a part of this process as well is giving your spouse an opportunity to vocalize the impact that it's had on them and is having on them. Because most likely they have felt the impact, even if they didn't realize what the source was.
Right, exactly.
They felt a distance. They felt there was an issue, the separation or something. Even if they haven't realized up to this point that you've been dealing with this addiction, they felt the impact somewhere. And so giving them the opportunity to vocalize themselves, like, this is the impact I'm feeling right now. This is how it's making me feel about our marriage, about our relationship, about you, the kids, our life, whatever it is. And you just sitting there and listening at that point.
Yeah.
And letting them say whatever they need to say about how they feel the impact of this thing.
Yeah. And understanding that it is fair for them to have an emotional response.
Oh, they're going to have an emotional response.
And it's reasonable.
Yeah.
It's reasonable. It is not, it doesn't make them crazy for being angry that they found out you have a pornography addiction. It doesn't make them, like they're off the deep end. They're nuts. They have no control over their emotions because they're angry that you have been secretly shopping and have debt that now you have to deal with together. It's reasonable for them to be angry. It's reasonable for them to have a response to what you've told them. So be prepared for that and accept it. Like, accept that response, because this addiction has hurt them. And so give them space to be upset.
Yeah, and don't turn around then and make it about their response.
Exactly. It's
like,
not about that.
This is, once again, this goes back to owning it. Like, don't make excuses. Don't try to steer the conversation now away from your addiction and what you've done because they blew up.
Right.
Like, they may not handle it well, and that's part of the impact that you have made on the relationship with your addiction. So don't take that opportunity. I know you're going to feel like you should take that opportunity to steer and lessen the impact away from you. Don't do that. Just let them feel the feels, let them acknowledge how it's impacted them all along or how it's impacting them right now.
Yep.
And then take some time after all of that to show your intentions. Mm-hmm. So you're reassuring them you want help, not just for yourself, but for your relationship. And that is the reason why I'm having this conversation. That's the reason why I'm coming clean. Not because I got caught, but because I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm tired of hurting you. I'm tired of hurting our relationship. I want to get help. I don't have all the answers yet, but I know I can't do this alone. And so part of this conversation, just as you talked about, we talked about letting them vocalize the impact, is letting them ask some questions also. Mm-hmm. And just taking the time to answer all the questions they want to ask. And depending upon what it is, they may have a lot of questions. They may have questions, if you've been cheating on them for how long, they're going to have questions about who, what, where, when.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a million things that are going to come to their mind. And you just have to be prepared to take the time to answer the questions and giving them an opportunity to do that. So
that's right. We know this is hard, you guys. We know this has been a heavy conversation. Thank you for sticking with us through it. This may be you. You may realize that you are the one in your relationship with the addiction and you are done hiding it. You're exhausted. You're tired of pretending. You're tired of lying and remembering the lies, and you're ready to come clean. When you do, you are going to feel so much better. Even no matter what the outcome is, no matter how bad it gets, you will feel better than the weight of hiding your addiction. So come clean, get it out there on the table, and you can go from there. There is healing in Jesus. There is healing in Christ. He can help you through this thing. Your marriage is not doomed because of it. He can get you through this. And we're hoping, we're praying with you that you and your spouse can work through these things together. And if you need help, we always recommend getting professional help, but we're here for you too. Like, we are, that's the point of family meeting, is that we can be here for each other. So you can send us a message, and Thomas in a minute is going to share with you our phone number, our email. You can find us on social media, but we want to help you as well. And we oftentimes get messages through Facebook Messenger or email saying, hey, I've listened to the podcast and this is happening in my marriage. I need help. I need prayer, whatever it may be. We are here for you, not just in word. We mean it. So you can message us if this is something that you're struggling with and you need help to come clean, or you need just somebody to listen to you and your issues. We're here for you. So you can reach out to us.
Yeah. And, We definitely are here for you, but here's the thing: we're not addictions counselors.
No.
So this is not what we do day in and day out. We can help you find an addictions counselor, because that's really what you need.
Right.
Is, okay, I've had the conversation with my spouse. Now what do I do? Now how do I take the next step? The next step is going to a counselor to help you to work through whatever it is you're addicted to. They've seen this before. They work with it day in, day out. They can help to come up with a plan that's specific for you to help you walk through this and have your best chance for gaining victory over this. They'll also have resources that can be a help to your spouse as well. And so making sure that you are taking the time to find a good Christian therapist and counselor who can help you walk through and take the next steps for you. So family meeting tonight and this week, maybe not tonight, like we said, this week is having this conversation with your spouse. It's time to come clean, time to clear the air, get this out in the open so that you can begin the process of gaining victory over your addiction. Through Christ, all things are possible. Mm-hmm. And so this is the week for you to have that hard conversation that you've been putting off for so long. Now is the time.
Thanks for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting Podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org. Or if you have thoughts, comments, stories, and illustrations about this episode, you can drop those off at info@familymeeting.org, or you can shoot us a text or send a voice message to 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting as we discuss the difficulty of parenting when you struggle to connect with your children. And we've already talked about the differences in age. When you have adult children, how do you connect with them when you don't really understand them and their life is kind of taking a turn to a different direction? How can you connect them? We talked about meeting them where they're at. And in this episode next week, we're going to talk about dads connecting with daughters and mothers connecting with sons, because it can be challenging. But how can we connect with our children? How can we meet them where they're at?
And this is part 2 of a conversation we've already had. So looking forward to finishing up that conversation with all of you. Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned. All right, so
very good.
Heavy conversation there about addiction. Be a great conversation for you to have with your spouse if there's an area where you're struggling with addiction. I'm thinking specifically about going back to the dream thing. So if you have experienced that where it's like, okay, my spouse has done something in my dream, I'd love to hear that from you in the comments there and have that conversation. Those are always fun conversations to have.
It's so funny, and yet it's so real, and we can all relate.
So we'll end on a little lighter note since it's been a heavy conversation. Drop those comments there, and we will get back to you there. With that, have a great week.